Welcome to Get Your Pets Out, the podcast where pet obsession meets comedy. Hosted by myself, Eva Bindeman, and my co-host, Barry Tortoise Bindeman. Barry's here with me on the couch today and is hungry. Today we are actually in a raucous display of narcissism, interviewing me and Barry, just by way of a little introduction of like who I am, because unless you've really come to see me live, you won't know who I am at all. So a little bit about why I love pets, a bit about Barry, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you like it and take a listen. Here I am, Eva Bindeman. So I guess I could probably start with talking a little bit about Barry, actually. So Barry is a Horsfield tortoise. Yes, I did purchase this breed of tortoise because the name made me giggle. Otherwise known as a Russian tortoise, and I actually got him online during lockdown when I was quite sad and quite drunk, actually. Do not recommend either. If you can avoid being drunk and or sad, recommend both. But in lockdown, in a flat by myself, after a breakup, and also on furlough, mad times. And I must have got a little bit drunk one night, and a few weeks later, the postman delivered me a large cardboard box, which was full of newspaper, and then in the centre of the newspaper, just a toilet roll tube with holes punched in it, and then more newspaper at either side. And I remember picking it up, and then just before I shook it to find out what it was, a little memory clicked back and was like, oh my gosh, is this a tortoise? And I unplugged both sides and looked down the tube, and there was Barry, roughly the size of a 50p piece. I would advise, if you are going to get a tortoise, make the decision sober. Also make it sensibly, and make sure you've got the space, the time, and all that. I didn't, and now she's with me for the rest of my life. But she was just gorgeous. She was just a little gorgeous, tiny, like cute little egg thing on my hand, and I called my downstairs neighbour, and we were still like socially distancing and everything, and bubbling and locked down, and he could just sort of stand in the hallway of my flat and just couldn't believe that I got this tortoise. So I had to quick order everything that we need. You need heat lamps, you need UV lamps, you need a huge indoor space for them, even when they're tiny. And I was living in bedsit. So it was suddenly half Barry's space, half my space. And she kept me sane throughout all of lockdown. Something to focus on, something to do. Some of you might have noticed that I changed between pronouns for Barry. He, she, they. That's partly because we live in Bristol, and it's just what's done here. Okay, it's just what's done here. You just do not want, until Barry has decided. She's 5, so I'm not going to push that on her. She's only recently got into being, sort of into her sexual maturity. And we know that sex is separate from gender. But also, I thought Barry was a boy, hence calling Barry, because she had the boy-shaped bumhole. And then she got her head stuck in a fence, so I had to take her to the vets. And they came out after doing what's basically a circumcision around the flaps on her neck. They performed a brisk on her, and then they informed me that actually she was a girl, which I was delighted by, because I don't know if you've seen a tortoise penis, but it stays completely within the shell, and then when they're ready to mate, which is once a year, it flops out, but it's like at least 1.5 times the length of a tortoise. And it is completely mobile on its own. So it just looks like a horrible fleshy worm moving around and I was terrified of that. And I said, thank you to the vet. Thank you so much that you've told me it's a girl, because I was worried about the penis just flopping out. And she just said, don't Google the clitoris. And I haven't, so I'm waiting for that little treat. Barry's 5 years old. No, you're going to be 6 this year, and I'm 36. And Barry will roughly live for about 82 years. And I am going to try and make it to 50. So, and then be buried with her. Barry's my first pet on my own, but not my first animal, family pet experience. We've always had dogs. My dad loves a Doberman. We had Dobermans growing up. But he took them when he left. So then after that point, we didn't have Dobermans or a dad. So what we had was every other animal that my mum came across in her life that was in need of any sort of help. Horses were her big love. She had like a thoroughbred horse that if you even went towards it with a saddle, started limping. Just saw it and just immediately pretended to limp for like a week. Would keep it up, and then as soon as it was free of it, would just be running around again. We had obese Shetland ponies that were too big for a saddle. You had to tie a little string round. And we had like 49 chickens, which I think I mentioned to one of the guests on the pod, because we had 49 because Mum picked them up from a petrol station, because they were ex-battery hens on their way to being killed and she couldn't bear it. So she picked as many as she could fit in the Volvo estate. And if she took 50, they would have been inspected by the government. We had at least 3 cats at any one time. We that were named Topsy, Turvy, and Tone. I think I failed on my naming of that one. And then what else we had? We had fish galore. One huge fish that was too big for the tank and it just lay there. We had rabbits. We had guinea pigs. Our house was just full to bursting, to the point where I was growing up thinking, when I'm a grown up, I don't want any pets or any kids or any friends. And then when you leave, you really miss it because there's a sort of relationship with animals that you don't really get anywhere else. I mean, what do you think our relationship is, Barry? Does she know I exist? She does come to the sound of my partner's voice. When they call Barry, Barry will move in that direction. But Barry permanently ignores me, which makes me really believe that it's like a teenager mum relationship. And that means that she really does love me. Yeah? Do you want to say anything? Just outright ignoring of me. So, my lovely producer, Alice, said she's going to play me something. She did tell me that it was just going to be an episode where I talk myself, but apparently I've just got to listen to it.
Hi Eva, it's Joe Sutherland. I was wondering, what is your secret pet behaviour that you hope nobody else ever witnesses? The thing that you do when it's just you at home with Barry the tortoise and nobody else is watching.
Alice, you clandestine menace. She's always said she's like a cat person, and now I see it. You bet you're in on this as well. What is my secret pet behaviour that only I do when Barry's around? I think I'm just grotesque. I think it's when it's just me and my pet. There's another creature there, but not in like a judging way. I think that's what's wonderful about pets is they're there, but they're not like societal judgment. So I will pick up a pair of clothes or pants, and I will smell them in the crotch to see if they're clean. And then sometimes, even if they're not, I'll just put them on anyway. And if I've got worms, I'll just drag my bum hole across the carpet to really scratch that out as well. Yeah?
Here's my question to you, Eva Bindeman. It's a very serious one, okay? My question is this. If you were to be a pet, what pet would you be, and which celebrity would you belong to? Hard-hitting questions.
There's Jared with his there's a certain intensity with Jared's questions. He really commits. That's what I like. This is very sweet. If I was to be a certain pet, what pet would I be, and which do you know what? I would have always thought dog, but if this is like a wish moment, I would want to be something that could fly, you know? But mysterious and sinister, but also like gothy. You know, basically everything I'm not as a human. So, I'd be a crow. Sleek, effortlessly cool, always on trend, can fly, more intelligent than we think it is. And I would belong to my forever crush, Carol Vorderman. I'd be Carol Vorderman's crow, because I could still be in Bristol and fly around listening to Carol Vorderman, doing all the cool stuff that she does. Yeah, I belong to Carol Vorderman as a crow. Sorry, Barry, I would not be a reptile. Because you're a bit gross. Alice, I assume you've got more. I don't like this deceit that's going on here. See how middle class my accent has got? Now you've tricked me. When I'm relaxed, I'm like, oh, read Alice, man, everything's fine. But now I know you've gone behind my back. I'm like, well, Alice, I just think this is absolutely unacceptable. And me and my ponies will be out of here. Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, hi, Eva. What's the biggest pet that you think you could beat in a fight? That is all.
That's Abby. Abby, what is the biggest pet I think I could beat in a fight? It's hard on that one. Because my rule as a nanny for having a dog is I'd have to be able to beat it in a fight. And that's from growing up around some pretty vicious dogs. So I reckon I could beat most cats in a fight, especially our co-hosts Joy and Fiore. I reckon I could beat them pretty easily in a fight, both physically and a battle of wills. Dog. Do you know what? Let's go big. Let's really go in. I'd fight a chimpanzee. Bubbles. Mr. Bubbles. I reckon I could beat Mr. Bubbles in a fight. Michael Jackson's chimpanzee, because he's so harrowed by all the things he's gone through that his heart's not in it. Mr. Bubbles. Don't look at me like that. All right, that's a valid or a chihuahua. Yeah? Scrap what I said about judgment. You're so judgy. I love you. You don't care if I live or die. Like all my relationships. Another.
So then, a question for Eva. A question for Eva I have is, I watched you waking Barry up from her little sleep. You know, wake on real rescue chief for this week's new for a little sleep, and you were like, oh, some people keep her in the freezer, but I didn't have a big middle class freezer to keep her in. First of all, is that okay? You're supposed to keep tortoises in the freezer? Because, like, hibernation, sure, but, like, it's not like tortoises are from the Arctic. So I think you're right not to keep her in the freezer. How is it now that Barry's awake? Um, would you ever get Barry a friend? Is Barry lonely? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I guess like 6 months into you're tapped out anyway, so it doesn't really matter. To be fair, a lot of the times of the year I'm out I'm not very useful for God, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not super tapped in. But yeah, let us know how Barry's doing. I'd like to know if you'd get a second kind of Barry. And I want to know more info about this freezer. Does any of these work? Let me know. Sending lots of love. Also, if you need me to re-record any of this, just say. All right, bye.
That was completely insane. But she's got a lovely voice to listen to. Lovely voice to listen to. I just relaxed there. So the question was, well, I think there was a bit where I feel like I need to explain to Kate, because that's Kate Checker, right? That seasons exist. Winter exists, which is the freezer sort of thing. And Barry, you're sort of needing to shed a little bit there. Yes. And okay, right, I'm gonna ignore this. What was the question? The question was, would I get a friend for Barry? Do I think Barry's lonely? So Russian tortoises can be very territorial. And as we know from recent global events, sometimes not even their own territory. So that's a satire there about Ukraine. Sorry. But I have thought when Barry wants to have an egg family, maybe. But if you put two tortoises in the same space, they can attack each other. So very, very slowly. But and also, no, she's a menace. She's a menace. I'm not having two menaces. Is that supposed to come off you? Oh, what a lovely shiny scale you've got into there, Barry. Oh, that bath has done you good. Okay. Oh, they're gorgeous. So would I? Yeah. So you can put tortoises in the freezer over winter. It helps you keep their temperature exact, so you can set the exact nature of their, what temperature they need to be, which means you can keep them in there for an exact amount of time, wake them up, be more in control. But obviously you run the risk of like freezing them to death if you've got a cheapy, shitty little freezer like I do. So I just bury you in like sand outside and straw, and then wake you up earlier. Yeah, I don't think Barry's lonely because Barry is basically a robot mouse. Food, sleep, heat. That's it. And would I get another one? No. Because they would fight each other. Not over my affection or anything, just for something to do. When I'm feeding Barry, I stuff it into like a glass or a ball. Apparently it's supposed to be. I'm basically tiger momming Barry. Like it's basically like stimulation and neuropath building so that she can really, reach her potential in her later life and choose whatever she wants to do, as long as it's a tortoise lawyer or tortoise doctor or no, that's it really. Another one.
Hello, here is my question. If Barry woke up with 3 legs instead of, I'm assuming she has 4, what would you then fashion as a replacement leg? Because obviously you wouldn't want her to topple over, or would you? Okay, God bless, farewell.
Thank you, Harriet Dyer, who's becoming more Cornish by the second. If I lost one of Barry's legs, right, I have thought about this because I'm often worried that she'll get herself trapped in somewhere. I'm a Steiner parent, I want her to be like roam around, be free. Tiger parent in education, Steiner in like exploration. She has a run in the house, she's got a heat lamp in the house, but she has the full run of the flat, which sometimes she gets like stuck under things. So there is what I'm saying is there is a high chance she might lose a leg. What would I do? Thought about it. Obviously take to the vet, get told off, have it all sutured up. Have a hook, if it was one of the front ones, replacing it. Have a little hook on there so that she can still grab stuff, climb stuff. Maybe like a multi-tool, like a screwdriver on the front, or like a blade if I wanted to enter into any battles. If it depends on what the world's political climate is. If it's getting worse, it would be a blade on the front. If she lost one of the back legs, I'll lift her up. You don't mind, dear Barry. Front ones are for like scooping and digging and skewering her food. Back legs are for looking adorable. And for scratching me. So back legs, stumpy little things. Front legs, claws. Sorry, Barry, there you go. Okay, she's fuming. Forgive me. So if it was one of the back legs, I would not replace it with a hook or a blade. So if you're listening to this, not watching it, Barry is trying to make, because I'm talking about chopping off her legs, trying to escape. They've got no depth perception. They shouldn't really survive evolution at all. She will fall head first off this sofa. Right? I've just, as a responsible parent, keep giving her opportunities to go as far as she can and then try and stop her. If it was one of the back legs, I would just glue one of them mini skateboards under her body, maybe two as she gets bigger, and Barry, that's so far. That is so far. Back up, Barry. That's it. Oh, she's learning. She's evolving. I just glue some mini skateboards on the bottom of her, and then she'd be fast and pretty cool. Get her some baggy trousers, a little bit of a shell necklace. Oh no, she was just trying to find a better place to jump. Am I helping or hindering? Yeah. Front leg, blade. Back leg, mini skateboard. Yes, Barry. Oh, it's almost like a weepy moment for me. She made a good decision. This must be how parents feel. If they had a cold-blooded, quite thick child. All right. In she goes. Back into where she came from. My vagina. So, some people might mistake this for affection. If she were a cat or a dog, yeah, this could be affection. Her crawling into my lap and digging into my groin area. Maybe a sort of urge to return to the mothership. But actually, she's cold-blooded and she's been away from her heat lamp for more than 20 minutes. So she's just looking for a place to absorb my heat to further survive. And that's why I love her. Mercenary, motionless, kind of thick. Beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. If you watch our lovely, odd little podcast that I adore, and for listening, we've got loads more great guests coming up. So keep your eyes out on those. And yeah, this is just a little bit about me and Barry, and with a few surprise questions in there. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.